today, a solitary portal stands as a reminder that Kezar Stadium was once the gateway to pro football in a quirky and intimate setting.
Say the friendly confines of Wrigley Field. Well, Kezar Stadium wasn't so friendly, but the confines were very close. People could almost touch the players. They could see the expressions. It was a great place to broadcast a football game from.
Looking. Now stops, throws, completes it to Kilmer up at the 30-yard line. Kilmer driving for the first down, loses the football. It's picked up by Jim Marshall, who's running the wrong way. Marshall is running the wrong way, and he's running it into the end zone the wrong way. Thinks he scored a touchdown. He has scored a safety.
Marshall doing that at Kezar Stadium was almost preordained, because it was always the scene of the bizarre. I mean, something goofy always happened.
I remember that exhibition game we played out there once, and doing an exhibition game, crazy things go on, and I was eating a sandwich on the sideline, and the seagulls came right down and took the sandwich out of my hand. Seagulls all over the field at Kezar, whether it was an exhibition game, regular season game.
One of the gardeners here got a hold of some of the old seats when they were tearing it down, so he gave me 4 one night. I put them in my car, took them home. I didn't take them out of the car that night. Went to bed, got up the next day to get them out, and the odor in the car was just horrendous. And it finally dawned on me what the problem was those seagulls bombarding those seats for all those years and saturating the wood.
At Kezar, it was possible to get pelted from the ground as well as from the air.
Players had to come out through the eastern end zone through a tunnel, and the fans, if they were disappointed with the team, would pour beer on the players. Or if a visiting team, they didn't like something they did, they'd pour beer or leave the beer in the cans. So they had, had to keep your helmet on, and they finally erected a screen over the tunnels to protect the players.
I remember as a ball boy, as you leave the field, you kind of take your time. You never wanted to be the first guy in there. You wanted to let the fans unload most of their ammunition. And the second thing, you never wanted to be around John Brody, because John Brody was the target Sunday after Sunday. So if you could see Brody get into the tunnel, and then you knew it was clear to go in yourself. This hasn't changed in 30 years. First time I've been back here, dirt floor, could really kick up a lot of dust. And when you had 50 players on each team, 100 players or so going through here, you can imagine the amount of dust that they kicked up and how unhealthy that was for you. Speaking of unhealthy, we're not sure what this pipe's for. Well, I think they ought to run this stuff through the lab. Yeah, there's one of Monty Stickles' loogies. Still stuck up there.
I can't imagine it was a fun place for teams to come play, because it certainly wasn't fun a lot of times for spectators.
Benches were hard. They were cramped. They jammed people in. You couldn't buy a hot dog without 10 people touching it before you. And if you ever expected your change to come back, you were mistaken, because you weren't going to get it back. And that was the heck, and guys are smoking in front of you. They're smoking cigars. As a kid, it was miserable to sit in the stands.
In some ways, it was an awful stadium. But when you think back and you're nostalgic, I think you think about the best parts. And one of the best parts about Kezar was that it was truly a neighborhood stadium.
People could watch from the rooftops across the street from us. I think they sold seats up there. You could sit up there, and people had their parties all the time right on top of their house and watch the game.
I went to high school at Polytechnic High School, which was right across the street from Kezar. And whenever I could, I'd either usher, sneak into the game, do whatever I had to do to see the 49ers play. And I remember the time, too, that after a party, I lured a pretty good-looking senior girl into a ticket booth to make out a little bit, but that has nothing to do with football.
With Haight-Ashbury just a block from Kezar, flower power bloomed outside the stadium during the 60s.
In a lot of ways, that was almost as exciting to me as the game, was to see all the hippies and the crazy flower children running around the streets. And it was a really interesting contrast between football fans and people tripping out on LSD and playing their guitars. I guess that's part of the lore of Kezar Stadium. I mean, you never knew what you were going to get, on or off the field.
Although old Kezar Stadium was torn down long ago, it still looms large on the landscape of the heart.
Everything started there. It germinated in that stadium. It's where we all grew up, all the 49er fans. The roots of the team, that's where they're at. They were established in Kezar.